Good morning, Red.
Good morning, Allie.
Good morning, Jordan.
Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Will.
And good morning, MAGFest.
Ow! Welcome to Extra Breakfast Live and Animated. That's right. First of all, I would like to say we are the only internet gaming talk show that not only talks about this week's gaming and tech news, but also has dragged these fine people out of their hotel rooms early on Sunday at MAGFest 2024.
I have bruises to prove it.
Thank you so much for being here. We know you have many choices, 95% of them being your bed, and we really do appreciate your patronage here for our breakfast shenanigans.
Now, Matt, those need not necessarily be mutually exclusive because we are once again in the fabulous Panels 1 room, which means there is a non-zero chance that someone out there, someone in the Gaylord Hotel left their television on last night while partying too hard.
Dare I say more than one person, perhaps?
Correct, which means that it's very important that that one person know. Wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up. There's lots to do. Everyone, just yell for them to wake up. 3, 2, 1. Wake up!
Hey, no. Wake up.
It's always the last one that gets you, right? Like it really got them out. So if you are upstairs and you've seen us on, or anywhere really in the building, and you've seen us on this closed circuit television, come on down to the ballroom.
You should come down then.
Yeah, you should. You should actually do that. It would make us feel special, and really, that's more important than you sleeping, obviously.
Well, I imagine that the people here probably... Does anyone here not know what this is? Okay, at least one. Okay, good.
We needed at least one person to tell us they didn't know what it was, so thank you for volunteering.
And it was like a 50-50. Like you
just lie to us.
Thank you.
You're either the best or worst friends for dragging someone else out of bed on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Well, we do this every week on Twitch. We're actually, I guess, technically doing it this week right now. And normally...
It is technically this week, so...
That's very correct. And we try to, because a lot of our stuff is animated and we don't get to talk about current events as much, we really do like trying to get at least on here, me and Will and whoever we can wrangle, talking about what is, present, current, and we have our lovely artists.
What's hip with the youth
right
now?
Or at least,
the fellow youth.
Something of today. But just in case people aren't familiar with people who are not Will and myself, Jordan, would you please introduce yourself, my friend?
I'm Jordan Martin, he, him. I have worked on So You Haven't Read and Extra Mythology series.
Allie?
Hi, I'm Allie.
That was good. I like
Thank you.
That's really good.
I work on the Extra History series as an illustrator, along with a few other artists who aren't here, but I guess that's it. Yeah, I'm one of the illustrators. Thank you. Bye.
And they will be live drawing our conversation today.
I like how your whole pitch was like, we do current stuff because there's not enough time to animate it, and we're doing it right now.
And yet
here we
Red,
are.
what about you, buddy?
Hi, I'm Red, he, him. I am the post-production supervisor, which means I take things and I put them in other places.
I'm the world's most complicated digital gopher. He's technically not wrong, but he's also not right in a substantial way.
That is the most accurate and inaccurate way of describing that job.
I think it's accurate and unhelpful.
Yeah.
You also tell me, yes, you're done. That's the other thing.
I do say, yes, you're done.
Yeah. Or, sorry, no, you have more work.
No, I go, that was really good. I really appreciated the effort that you did, but can you, do it more right next time?
Can you suck less? Thanks.
But here are the notes you missed.
Yeah.
By the way, we have, so in addition to thanking all of the fine folks here in the audience, we do need to thank the large number of people currently spamming spherical cow emotes in the Twitch chat. If you're not from the EC Twitch community, yes, we have a Twitch channel. That's the Twitch motto. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all the cows. I'm sorry.
I'm not.
No, I've unleashed a monster. I feel like this is a monster of my creation.
It
and
is.
much like Frankenstein following his monster around the world, like seeking to make amends, I feel like I'm going to be constantly following Twitch chat around, being like, I'm sorry.
But they wanted it. They voted for the spherical cow.
Yes. And
Brad chose this.
And much like a child who desperately wants a breakfast made of Mountain Dew poured over Lucky Charms and then to be given 2 cans of spray paint inside your house, you have to tell them no from time to time.
Listen,
But,
breakfast,
not all the
breakfast
time.
is what you want. Hashtag not sponsored by Martinelli's. This is Martinelli's sparkling cider, non-alcoholic. It is very delicious. We are not sponsored by Martinelli's at all, but is Breakfast of Champions. If anyone would like any.
You didn't tell us to bring cups.
You have in your bottle. Drink your water and we'll fill it up. But, yeah, see, you finish your coffee.
Ooh, a shot of coffee in your Martinelli's in the morning.
It's perfect.
That,
No notes.
okay. I'm gonna, all right, that's fine.
So,
Is it
The
fine?
smell of coffee and Martinelli's mixing is a
it's
very
really something.
fascinating is the word
It is
to go
definitely
with.
a thing.
So at these live shows, what we like to do to start off the conversation is show an episode of Extra Credits, particularly an episode that has not aired yet. And this time, I believe this one will be airing 2 Wednesdays from now. And it is on open world city design, which is what we're going to kind of talk about to begin with. This was illustrated by David Hueso, who is one of our lovely artists. And if I could have the HDMI cable when you are... Uh-oh, you got a spherical cow going?
Ali didn't finish it right. I need to make sure.
Okay.
Whoa.
Okay.
Wait, is that a spherical cow that produces Martinelli's sparkling apple cider?
Hashtag not sponsored by Martinelli's yet.
Yeah.
So good.
I don't know why we're driving for this so hard, but like we are.
All the lucrative Martinelli's contracts out there?
Yeah, think about
yes,
it.
the way you said that was definitely in the style of like a late 1800s baron of some kind. Like, yes, we're looking for the lucrative Martinelli's contract. We need it for the entire Eastern Seaboard.
I agree completely.
You need like a cigar and a snifter and like a snifter of brandy and a monocle and a top hat and to be exploiting children.
You just described a really great Saturday.
Like you need like an army of children who are like stomping the apples for Martinelli's.
You just described Pal World.
You beat me to it.
Don't jump ahead. We're talking about that later.
I'm kidding. Hey, let's watch an episode.
Yes,
You
please.
step out of the vault in Fallout and see a sweeping view of the wasteland before you. Or you walk out of the hero's grave in Elden Ring and immediately feel dwarfed by the majesty of the Erd Tree in the distance. But then you walk around downtown Night City, and you have an experience that's a little different. Because you're in the middle of a city that somehow, despite its grand visual splendor, still feels kinda samey all around, and doesn't really invite any true sense of exploration outside of where a dot on a map is telling you to go. And this was just something that became apparent as I was actually really enjoying Phantom Liberty, but it did force me to ask the question, why are open world games set in cities so hard to design for? When you think about it, it is kind of funny how many games we call open world when that whole world is basically just one city. But a ton of games, from Cyberpunk to Spider-Man to GTA, offer you an open world within a modern urban environment. And while many of these games are great, they all do face one similar colossal problem. The problem of landmarking. In open world games, landmarks are points of interest meant to catch your eye from afar. And I'm sure you've probably had a moment in Skyrim or Assassin's Creed or Elden Ring where you've seen something off in the distance that looked interesting or, well, just plain kind of awesome. And we're like, heck yeah, I'm gonna go check that out. And then you toddled off that way, right? Well, creating those moments is a core part of good open world design because it gives you, the player, the feeling of exploration, which, let's be honest, was probably the thing you were looking for when you picked up an open world game in the first place, but also it allows the designers to control the pacing of your experience in an otherwise uncontrollable environment. You see, one of the major challenges in designing an open world is that since you, the player, can do whatever you want, you can make the game very boring for yourself very quickly. I am incredibly guilty of that from time to time because we can wander around the middle of nowhere or fight like sheep for 3 hours for some reason, and then at the end of that experience decide the game is stupid and quit. So as designers, we somehow have to build an interest curve into a game where the player has basically total freedom. And how do we do that? By getting you to go to all of the cool, tailor-made places that we carefully crafted for you, while still making you think you're totally free and wandering the world by your lonesome. And we do that by, you probably guessed it by now, creating landmarks. These types of landmarks are the invisible hand of the designer, guiding you through an open world. Usually they're placed in such a way that you're never far from one, and sometimes you'll even find that as soon as you're done exploring one of these, and you stumble out of whatever dank dungeon you were dungeoneering in, you'll just happen to see, in a complete coincidence, what's that in the distance? Is that a castle? And you think, I better go check that out right now. Beyond just that, though, these landmarks also serve another very important gameplay purpose. They help you, the player, navigate. You know an area because it has the 1,000-foot-tall tree, or the collapsed temple, or the radioactive water tower in it. They're the mnemonic that helps you memorize an otherwise samey area, and the lighthouses that help you navigate without always flipping to the minimap. So overall, landmarks are a very powerful tool in the open world designer's tool belt. So important, in fact, we actually did a whole episode specifically about them and how most of the lessons were learned from Disney World. You can check that out over here, but I digress. Let's take the conversation back to Urbania, that densely packed modern mess of concrete and glass and steel. Here, landmarking becomes a huge problem for a few reasons. First, in a modern city, few things have awesome silhouettes that can be seen from far away. Second, color tones don't vary wildly. Third, you're rarely high up enough to get sweeping vistas where something could stand out from afar. And finally, just skyscrapers, like the concept of them. The density of modern buildings block most sightlines, and skyscrapers make that problem even worse. So, how do we overcome these issues? Well, games like Spider-Man and the Arkham series handle this roadblock by essentially just lifting you very high above it by putting you on rooftops most of the time. And when you're up there and you've gotten over that beautiful sense of vertigo, they can give you those broad vistas and long sightlines we mentioned earlier, allowing the designer to make the most of whatever landmarking they can get in there and provide the player with a sense of exploration by giving them that moment where they can look around them in 360 degrees, spot something interesting on the horizon, and beeline in that direction. But this isn't possible for a lot of games, right? What if your protagonist isn't a superhero, doesn't have cool gadgets, or heaven forbid cannot rely on the power of parkour? Well, there's a lot that we can learn from Yakuza in those situations, because it takes a totally different approach. First, the Yakuza games usually have a much smaller map size when compared to something like GTA. This means that when you look down a major street, you're often seeing something like a tenth of the total world. And this is kind of like standing on a mountaintop and gazing out into a more traditional open world game, because if the game's well designed, you're going to see something cool down that corridor and go to it. Second, the best Yakuza locations are more often than not a riot of color. They're filled with blazing neon signs, and every store has some wacky logo just popping out of its storefront, right? The architecture is wild in ways that US cities just don't adhere to. And this allows the developers to use every tool they have to make what in most urban environments are flat vertical plains jump out at you and be enticing. Then, because of the smaller world, they're also able to pack the environment very densely. You think something might be interesting? You're probably right, because the world's small enough where almost everything kinda has to be. They also make more use of interior spaces. You can go into more buildings in a Yakuza game than Spider-Man, for instance, outside of those cutscene walking simulator parts, allowing them to get away with a world that still feels vibrant, but has a smaller exterior footprint to let them pack everything in. Finally, they limit skyscrapers. You'll find Yakuza maps often only have 1 or 2 of them. And by limiting them in that way, they themselves become awesome landmarks all on their own. But more than that, it allows the designers to build the street layout of the world in such a way that these never really block lines of sight or dominate the player's entire screen. And it's this last one that we can really see Night City struggling with. Look, I'll be the first to say, Cyberpunk has one of the most beautifully crafted, meticulous urban environments games have ever seen. It's honestly a marvel if you take the time to just put on some tunes and cruise through it. But they hit all of the problems of blocked sightlines, few high vistas, and streets that look unremarkable because that's just how urban streets often look. And many of their best landmarks involve looking up in a world where the player rarely does that, and where even when they do, their view is often blocked by buildings. So, players just end up bouncing from mission to mission rather than exploring, often just fast traveling between pins on the map rather than wandering the city and finding adventure on their own, which I just have to reiterate is such a shame because of how much love and effort clearly went into this world. I do not want to use the tried and true phrasing of breathtaking because it's, cliche at this point, but insert Keanu Reeves meme here. So, all of that is to say, if you want to encourage exploration in your open world city games, you need to find a way to give the players landmarks, and of course, let them see them. And you can do that by either bringing them up high or shrinking the world down. Once upon a time, Michael Hoggett, Koyakoi Joseph, Nick Valenciana, Arclight Games, Angelo.
So, I was really excited to talk to all of you up here and you out there about this particular thing, because Cyberpunk is what really made me and James kind of question all of this, because we all know Cyberpunk had, let's say, a less than optimal launch. It was broken in a lot of ways.
Matthew Kroll, master of understatement.
I know,
everyone.
yeah. But the thing, I played it at launch. I've been playing it again since the patching, and they did a little bit of work here. But the thing that really got me was, I don't know if it's how I explore open worlds, particularly in cities, but like I was a little too meticulous. I did basically what the episode says. Like, I went and like punched, not in Cyberpunk, of course, but the equivalent of like punching a bunch of sheep, like over and over and over again, and like trying to break it and going through. And I found a lot what I considered of the side quests and things. But many of my friends who I talked to bounced off it really hard because they felt it was incredibly linear, because it does just tell you like, okay, go here, yep, go here, yep, go here, and it didn't like invoke a sense of wonder and exploration with landmarks or anything else. And I was curious, sort of, Red, I know you've played a decent amount of Cyberpunk.
Yes.
Did you feel that, or was that something that was...
I am an explorer, so I ignore most of the main quests for like as long as possible, to be honest. I think I put in probably 50, 75 hours before I really even, I was very shocked to find that I hadn't done any of the main story at some point. I don't know. And for me, actually, I played it early at launch, and there were problems, and I kind of I enjoy the exploration so much. I actually forgave it for the problems and kept pushing through.
Yeah.
So, I think I've played 3 playthroughs, and the first one was almost triple the length for me because of the exploration. Second one, I can see how people perceived it as being very on rails, because if you do follow the text, you can get through that game very quickly.
Yeah.
And you miss a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem that a lot of games sort of struggle to find the balance of. Like, if you do exactly what we tell you to, you'll get exactly what we tell you you're going to get. And some games accidentally teach people not to go off that path.
Yeah,
right?
like the iconography sometimes, just like you open up a map and you have these things that yell out to you, this is your quest.
Right. And when you, if you don't take the fact that you're landmarking into account, it can lead the player astray. So for instance, in Tears of the Kingdom, how many people immediately upon reaching the surface world beeline for the closest tower to you rather than going to the place that the quest marker sent you, only to be super disappointed that you can't actually do anything with the towers until you do the first quest? Because that was me, right? Because there's sort of a balance here between you should only do the things that we tell you to do, and then you'll get this linear result. And then if you're not careful, you'll accidentally tell people that by not letting them do all the cool stuff until they've finished the, like, you can't have your dessert until you've done your main story sort of feeling.
I just want my paraglider. Just give it to me.
Right. Like, why did I lose it?
How did I?
Was it on my arm or something when it just got like shredded? Like what? I don't understand why I don't have
You
it.
can contrast that against, say, Elden Ring, which has this ostensible guided path through the direction from the rest points, right? There's that golden arc that points you in the direction of the main quest.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I'm pretty dumb, and I did not recognize that at all, and I wandered in the other direction.
Sometimes you have to be intentionally oblivious.
No, I'm naive when it comes. I come in like a babe in the woods, and I just start wandering around, and I enjoy games that give me the freedom to not have to follow a set path.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult balance, because at some point I got myself in a corner in Elden Ring, and I was like, how am I supposed to do anything? I don't understand. I can't even level up. What is happening?
Well, I mean, Matt and I played we played Elden Ring. I mean, Matt played Elden Ring, and I managed chat, because the deal with that was that every time Matt died in Elden Ring, he had to do a workout in Ring Fit, because...
It's Elden Ring Fit.
Obviously.
I don't know why no one else thought of this.
Right, no, it's there could be no more natural...
What a natural tonal progression
Right, yeah.
of running a playthrough of Elden Ring, yeah.
But I remember that there were a couple of cases where we got, like, stuck, and the solution was just, well, then go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right? And they're pretty good at that.
Just looking around and jumping. Allie, anything about what's the most memorable, either city or otherwise, sort of open world, and how did you kind of explore it?
Well, I guess the most recent one was Scarlet Violet.
Yeah.
Pokemon. That one got frustrating at one point, because like you have to upgrade your Miraidon, you have to upgrade your mount to get to certain places. And I spent like 2 hours trying to get to the city, because I was convinced I could get to it. It was like the last one I had to get to, and I was like in the cave for like an hour, and then I was trying to get up on this mountain, and then I realized that like, no, I need to upgrade the mount to get there. So that was a little frustrating. But I did explore a lot at that point. And it was like, I was a little frustrated, but I didn't feel like it was a waste of my time.
Right.
I did learn something, but it was like, I spent a lot of time exploring areas that maybe I wouldn't have explored just trying to get to this place, even though I wasn't allowed to yet, because I thought I could, like, I don't know, magic my way in there when I wasn't supposed to.
Did you jump backwards on the up the mountain?
No, I didn't try that.
Yeah, that was.
I didn't think that was a thing, but I'm going to try.
A reminder that there's never once been a glitch with an unreleased Pokemon game, not once ever.
No, they never glitch. That's
And
impossible.
in Scarlet and Violet, at one point, there was tech where you could, instead of doing any of the mount upgrades, just jump backwards up the mountain, because negative direction velocity is a thing that games have never figured out, and I am convinced at this point will never figure out.
Yeah. What about just people in the audience? Like, are there any city-specific, but if I know there's less of those, like open-world games that you either felt like did a really good job at leading you to finding things, or allowing you to feel like you could explore without being sort of like railroaded?
I have another. Well.
My favorite game series is the Dragon Age series.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the first things that comes to mind is the Vigilance and the Inquisition. So you're dropped down literally in the middle of this gigantic map. You're told, oh, there's like some refugees in this camp directly in front of you, and you can see them like off in the distance fighting. But if you turn around, there's like a weird sidereal load thing behind you, and you're like, well, what's that? It's not in any previous games, and there's like a cottage on fire behind that, and you keep exploring. There's like a villa and like another like giant tower. But if you go to the refugee camps, you see like, oh, there's some guards like fighting some other people over here. So like whichever direction you go, there's like more things to explore, and there's more like pieces of information lore to sort of guide you.
And that sort of leads you through, like, no matter what direction, yes, there are these clear things, but the game lulls you into a trust. Because I have not played that Dragon Age, but it sounds like you basically start trusting the designers to, oh, well, if I do walk off here, there's going to be something that will then lead me to something else interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that another game that does that really well out of necessity is Genshin. So I've been poking Genshin with this stick again, and it does a really great job at the trick, which I think goes back to this whole like open world landmark city design thing, which is that different things look like landmarks to different people, right? Sometimes the skyscraper looks like a landmark, but sometimes the casino looks like a landmark, but sometimes that cool place that we could definitely have a drag race looks like a landmark. And in Genshin, anything that looks like a landmark is.
Yeah.
Because they always give you some reason to have gone the place that you went. Except for waterfalls. There's like a distinct lack of cool things behind waterfalls, and I'm a little salty about it, but that's okay.
Is it because you always expect there to be a treasure chest behind the waterfall?
I expect there to be something behind the waterfall.
Yeah.
I think that's
I'm guilty of just like always running
right,
through.
but like you
I don't know if
can't
expect is the right word. I feel like should be is
Yeah.
the word,
Well,
right? Like,
okay, so
If I
waterfalls.
can go behind the waterfall, there better be something behind the waterfall.
Is that a mismatch, right? Do players always assume there are things behind waterfalls and then there aren't? Now, of course, if you're our community, you'll remind me that if I ever play D&D with any of them, they're going to put a magnesium sword behind a waterfall. So that when I take it out, it explodes. So it might not be a good thing behind a waterfall, but there
Like a
should
nice
be,
sodium handle, so
right,
just
yeah,
really
right, just
go
poof.
for it, yeah.
But
Bless you, Brad.
waterfalls are another really great, like, this is a landmark whether you think it is or not kind of thing.
Then there's the question,
Caves.
the question of if there's something behind every waterfall, is it actually like special anymore? Is that exploration, or is it just
Don't
another
go
marker?
chasing waterfalls.
Oh, yeah, I know. Wow. Hey, DMCA.
Sorry.
All right. Godzilla got tired apparently on the, and MAGFest still stands.
MAGFest stands.
Is it like Gallifrey that way or something? Like, okay,
We
all right, great.
persevere.
So in more current event news, Will, you brought this to my attention because again, MAGFest. It's funny. We try to do as much up to date sort of stuff on Extra Breakfast and Games for Breakfast that, but we're also at MAG, so we're not paying attention terribly to the news. But what was it on Friday? Was the Xbox Developer Direct?
What day is it?
It's now.
Also, what year is it? Okay, so it was Thursday.
Thursday?
Because Saturday, so today's Sunday the 21st, and it was the 18th.
When will then be now?
Soon.
Thank you.
Okay. Was the Xbox Developer Direct, which is what we're getting now instead of E3. Rest in peace, E3, forever in our nostalgia memories. I don't know if it's forever going to be in our heart, but like, anyway. So this is their big pitch for a bunch of stuff, and once again, and predictably, I was let down by the entire event, because Silksong did not come out on Thursday. Silksong remains one of the games that I would have left. I need you all to know, if Silksong had come out Thursday, I would have left. I would have driven home and just like started playing Silksong.
You can probably get it on the Switch.
And download it on hotel Wi-Fi?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
It'll be like a gig, and I'll be there for like 12 hours, just like watching the loading bar. Anyway, so the Developer Direct happened, and one of the things that was on it, there were a bunch of games that got announced. Indiana Jones and the World Circle, which looks kind of interesting as like a new Indiana Jones story. Visions of Mana, which is great because that's a return to a classic series.
I'm psyched for that.
And then they were like, all right, cool, there's a sequel. And I was like, great, it's an Xbox showcase. I kind of expect sequels. And then they remind me that there's going to be a sequel to Hellblade.
How many people here played Senua's Sacrifice? Two. Okay.
So some.
Am I not supposed to raise my hand?
Three, I didn't see.
So a couple of like brief things about Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice that are kind of necessary to know to understand my objection. Number one, the first credit in Hellblade is the mental health consultant who helped on every aspect of the product because. Like every aspect of Hellblade is about mental health and struggling with mental health. And so one of the most important people on that team was the person who was talking about like how to portray mental health in a good way, right? In a safe way, in a way that conveyed Senua's suffering, but wasn't
in an
like
empathetic fashion.
Yeah, but and it wasn't tropey either.
Yes.
Right. Despite the fact that she's actually hearing voices, it's not done in a way that's tropey. So. Very, very deep emotional connection for me. And then they were like, all right, and now we're going to have that again. And I was like, whoa, okay. And they were like, yeah, but this time she's a war hero and there's more. Like, everything I got from the trailers was like, and it's more violence. And I was like, that was not the point of the first one. And so I guess I'm just, like, of everything they did, that was the one that was like, why did you do that? Could you, I know you want to, consider, however, alternately, don't. Just don't, right? Like, I'd like to present
Okay, well, see, you're not seeing what happens in the Xbox. Like, I don't know, I imagine they all, like, wear shirts and ties, and they sit down, and they go, when are we going to Xbox next? And they say, well, I hear mental health is a thing that was really popular. Let's do more of that.
Yes, let's have more games about depression and mental health breaks in the year 2024.
Yeah.
Well,
But
that seems like a great idea.
They also really like the combat, so let's throw that in.
That was going to be my point. Something about Senua's Sacrifice that I feel like it rode a really cool knife's edge of, like, if you just looked at, like, screenshots or, like, a segment of the combat, it looked like it could be sort of like a God of War-y kind of just combat-focused game. It is absolutely not. There is combat in it, but that's, as Will has said, wasn't the point. And so even when, like, Xbox announced that there would be a sequel for it, like, I was curious if they'd learned that lesson. Like, you could very easily look at screenshots or video clips and be like, oh, this is the next God of War. This is great. Like, and that is not what this game's point seemed to be.
But let's be honest. This is probably just a marketing or PR misfire, right?
Or
there's
not
no
misfire.
Way the studio is not crafting this game. Right, yeah. It is, and possibly the deal was signed and struck, and money was given and supported, not on the game that you just described. It was probably given for a game that, again, plunges deep into emotional trauma and mental illness, and uses next-gen technology to push the art game that they made even further.
Yeah.
But then, in order to sell it, the marketing team was like, all right, let's grab a few screenshots. We got like 20 minutes. What can we do with this?
Well, they did like a 7-minute presentation in this on the Xbox Direct, and it definitely tries to do both, I think. And I imagine they're going to want to make it as I think maybe, Will, this might be where your worry comes in. They're going to try to make it as mainstream as they can to make the value back, which, again, that could be one of two ways. Not the game itself, but even the very marketing of it could be to, like, try to get more people through the door.
And I think my objection is more broadly that I'll, like, shorthand a whole bunch of lead up to this as best I can. If all games are art and all games are art, some games are like gallery art, right? They're like art that is short form and digestible and belongs in a place where, like, it can be easily consumed because it's more obviously art that more people who are not familiar with the language of games will get as art, right? And so the game that's probably easiest to hold up to that is Journey, right? Journey is like a gallery art game. It's very flowing. It's beautiful. It's not particularly challenging. There's lots of really good moments in Journey. Imagine if they made Journey 2. What?
Nothing.
No. Oh no.
They're getting somewhere.
Now,
They're getting somewhere.
Now I'm worried. And so I think that's part of it too. Is that not even that it's just Hellblade. It's that it's an art game, or like what I would call like a gallery game, a high art game that had a very real emotional impact, and they were like, sequel, but what if we sequel?
Hey, old men of the internet.
Hi.
What's that you say, Sonny Jim? I don't have my batteries.
Do you remember how the first Hellblade was initially announced to the public?
No.
Do you remember?
I do not.
Wow, you really are getting old.
Yeah.
It's the memory that goes first, I'm told.
Yeah, right, obviously.
I don't either, but I do remember. I do remember several screenshots focusing and gameplay footage being around that first focused on the combat sequences, and only afterwards was I beginning to see mini documentaries about the performance and the mental health aspects. And I'm wondering if we're just going down that same road with this release as well.
Kind of like the production, the producers pulled a Brutal Legend.
Yeah.
Right? Because Brutal Legend is a fantastic game if you don't assume that it's going to be anything else.
Yeah.
And if you looked at any of the marketing, it was like, it's going to be God of War, but with metal. And it definitely wasn't anything like that. And it was a great game for what it was, but if you looked at any of the marketing material, you'd get the wrong message about it and dislike the game as a result. So I think it might be that same phenomena.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, anyway.
Well, moving right along.
No, not moving right along. You guys skipped over Avowed was also, explained more. And I've been looking forward to this.
You want to talk about Avowed?
No, I just wanted to mention that I was looking forward to it.
Okay, great.
I mean, if you're doing, gift shopping for me.
So everyone at home, Red, when's your birthday?
Unofficially, December 29th.
Wait.
Officially?
Yeah, what?
No comment.
That's what your paperwork says.
Yeah, that's what the government thinks.
No, I was going to say along the lines of sort of again, another large thing that happened while at MAG outside of this convention center was the early access release of Pal World. Who is familiar? Wow, everyone just sighed. Who is familiar with Pal World?
You don't even need to ask this question according to Steam, everyone.
Well, that's what again, this could just be a MAG, everyone who is here just didn't notice.
Well, everyone here, unless they spent most of the weekend in the LAN room, wasn't playing Power.
Sure.
So they probably don't know about the stuff.
So they don't even know the world ended outside of.
I want to talk about a couple different reasons why Pal World is sort of in the outside of MAGFest news cycle for gaming stuff. First and foremost, it broke a bunch of Steam records, I believe, with I think it's over 1 million concurrent players.
You can actually track the articles. They were like, oh my gosh, it hit 300,000 concurrent, 500,000 concurrent, 700,000 concurrent, and I woke up this morning and it was past 1 million. 1 million concurrent players is bananas, by the way. That is higher than most AAA games ever get.
Yeah.
1 million concurrent, because if you think about it.
I'm sorry, that is just such an impossible number for me to imagine.
Right, yeah, and it's concurrent, right? That's not the total number of copies sold. That's all of those people playing Pal World right now.
That means if I was to go into my apartment building,
right,
the odds are pretty good that 3 other people are playing that game right now.
So it's like 1 in every 330 people in the States.
Yeah, that's my apartment building.
Yeah.
So
roughly, I don't know, how many people are at MAGFest? Probably
2. Oh, I'm sorry.
22,500.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
Okay, so,
I was really
give
close.
or take.
So Seth says roughly 22,500. So by that math, right, a decent chunk of them are actually not doing anything at MAG. And just sitting in the rooms playing Pal World instead, right? They came to the
just in case.
It's just scenic National Harbor in the snow, just sit in their rooms and play Pal World.
So the person in the room next to us, they were definitely paying Pal World.
They were.
I'm
yeah.
sure of it.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it.
The noises could only have been that.
Yeah.
But the other sort of thing that has been the headline grabber, other than the player count and the numbers, it is so just in case again, if you're not familiar, it's apparently an open world survival game.
Yes.
But the tagline, not theirs, just what people have given it since it has been announced, as Allie is sort of alluding to right now, with Jigglypuff all tatted up with a weapon, is Pokemon with guns. That is not what the developer is saying, of course, but that is the tagline.
That's the mimetic shorthand
of what people are calling it.
Also, it's Pokemon with guns and capitalism, because the thing that Pokemon needed more of was capitalism.
So, yeah, the reason why I think and it's going to be, I think what's really going to be interesting is if we keep seeing player levels, like player numbers at the same level continually, because again, it's early access, and apparently the game, people are having fun playing it. No one here has played it. Based on the audience reaction, no one out there has played it. This is a panel that we're discussing a game we have not played. Let that be very clear. I want to talk about kind of how the news cycle has glommed onto it.
Yeah, I agree.
Because...
So this is not about the game. This is about the news of the game.
This just in. Pokemon have guns. No, like... And you can see in the art style, it's... For all intents and purposes, Pokemon with the serial numbers filed off. Like,
and to the extent that they've, I've seen a bunch of articles of people going through the PAL decks, which is
it's a PAL deck, not a Pokédex. It's
right,
a PAL deck.
Excuse me, I misspoke. It's
legally distinct.
Right, very legally
PAL
distinct.
deck.
They went through all of them, and of them, I think there are less than 5 that are not either like weird fusions of Pokemon, or they just like changed a couple of things and the color palette of Pokemon. So like they know what they're doing.
Yeah. The thing is, because again, if you build, yeah. Well, so here we're getting to it, Joe. So while I can't guarantee that is anywhere in the game, Allie, you're going a little bit. We haven't played the game.
Taking liberties with.
But it is apparently you can build bases, and you basically give your pals jobs, and you basically give them jobs and tasks, and they can do other things, etc. But the thing that a lot of the news cycle has glommed onto to kind of make it whatever your definition of salacious is the ability to adjust things like how hard you work your pals. And there are levels, apparently, of like, oh, well, you can increase productivity and production of whatever you're having them do at the damage of their sanity.
Monocle, top hat.
You can also, I believe, eliminate your pals, I'll use that word, for resources.
It's censored.
You can eat them.
You can eat them. There's a bunch of different things, and again, not that ideas like this shouldn't be explored in games, but it's just those are the things that the news cycles are sort of glomming onto, and it's interesting to look at different sites or publishing instruments and the political biases where they lean, and what they are talking about and why. Like, what was the Forbes article, Jordan?
Oh, that's the article I read last night. Yeah, that was like, it's not slavery. I bought them a hot tub.
Like, this is like
it was very weird.
It's really strange how this game is being
Forbes
talked about.
of the Forbes 500 venture capitalist and capitalist owner class.
10 out of 10.
All thumbs up. They were
right.
ecstatic.
I bought the pals a pizza party. Surely they should be happy to work unpaid overtime.
Yeah.
That was,
So the interesting thing here, it kind of brings us back to a little bit of, we are a YouTube channel. Yes, we have a YouTube channel. And the way that stories, or particularly things on YouTube, are thumbnailed and titled. And I'm not talking like clickbait. That's the easy way to go about it. But one of the reasons why I think this game, despite it being either really well made or sort of like you can make edgelordy choices or both. Like, again, we were talking this morning, none of those are mutually exclusive. I think the reason why this game is getting a lot of press and therefore a lot of play, in addition, is because the tagline, again, not theirs, what people have decided is Pokemon with guns. It's kind of clear, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, whenever you hear something like that, you do have a reaction one way or another, whatever that thing is. You're like, I understand that, I feel X or Y about that. I'm still kind of curious how that would work. Like, it's a perfect selling point no matter where you stand on what this game does. And I don't know, when I saw that sort of as the unofficial, like what people were calling it.
But I'm always suspicious when somebody does X but this, or it's like X and this.
Sure.
And often these are misqualifications.
Yeah.
Like
I'm very
more often
suspicious
than
of
not.
X. Ever since it changed from Twitter, I've been suspicious of
Yeah.
Yeah, just the letter in general.
Right.
It's gotten sus.
Especially because there's another game that's not in the conversation about this game that really should be, and that's Ark.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Ark is absolutely a part of the conversation with like the animal-based survival mechanisms, right? And like the resource management and capturing and training. And like, yes, it's more on the Pokemon end of like, I'm going to throw up, what is it, a PAL sphere?
Let's go with the legally distinct PAL sphere.
It's
I have
called
no
a PAL
idea.
sphere that you need to throw to catch your pal.
Boy, that is flying so close to the sun.
Yo, and they're a Japanese developer. It's not like they're developing in
This
another
whole
country.
thing is just, they have to be just like...
This is like smearing yourself in A1 steak sauce and running around naked in front of a polar bear.
That's a Sunday. That's a good Sunday.
Right? Obviously.
Is the Pokemon company the polar bear in that scenario?
Yes.
Okay, and just double check.
Just so we're all on the same page, Pokemon is the single most valuable IP in the world, period.
How litigious are they with copyright or trademark infringement?
On a scale of 1
Like, could
to...
I make a T-shirt that just has Chuka Pika and, like, sell it to people?
On a scale of 1 to we will feed you alive to our Shark Tank full of bloodthirsty lawyers, we're somewhere past that second.
But this one goes to 11.
This scale does go to 11. And so I feel like my whole feeling about this is that they were trying to make a point and they missed it, and now they're just here. Like, stuck with it, right? Like, you ever get the
Like, they
sense-
just fired past the target.
Right,
They're like,
like-
well, this is where we are now.
Like, Matt, you went to a really interesting panel about solitaire, right? And it took you a really long time to discern whether or not it was a bit. And I feel like I'm still waiting for someone to tell me that Power World is a bit.
Well, see, okay, reading the coverage, I asked in genuinely good faith, are these all decisions designed to tease and invoke all of these questions? Like, I wondered if it is purposeful satire commentary that is like, it is a direct challenge to and I don't mean to go off topic here a little bit, tiring and, underdeveloping, genre. Right? Where maybe the game isn't like Pokemon at all, but the fact is if they keep referencing them so closely, maybe they're trying to draw out a fight, to point out some obvious weaknesses that's in the genre right now, the monster trainer genre,
right, yeah.
And while I kind of just don't feel like it's true that it was on purpose, and maybe it was. I haven't played. It just came out, so I haven't.
We're only
looked
talking
into
about
it
the
enough.
coverage.
Yeah, right. But I do struggle to think that that's actually their point.
How do you
but
get 20 people in a room making a game?
Make, though, right? Because Pokemon does have a lot of these problems. We're all Pokemon fans up here, right? Like, I'm not trying to knock Pokemon, but it does. They are saying the thing we said a lot talking about this is like they are kind of saying the quiet part out loud, right? Like, Pokemon's a little.
Well, like, Allie, you were talking about specifically, was it the newest animated stuff?
They've been doing it for how many seasons and iterations after, like, the first season?
Actually, I've been 12 for like
They're really
2
pushing it
decades.
now,
The
where-
last few seasons, they've really been pushing
Yeah.
that. No. Pokemon love to fight. They'll do it even if people aren't around. They'll sneak out of the house to go fight because they just love it.
so much.
And I asked
They love it like we love Martinelli's sparkling cider. Hashtag not sponsored by Martinelli's yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll do it even if they were set free. They would still stay on the
They'll
farm.
leave
So there is
Things,
but that is a very good point. Like, this is a version of that feels like, from some gameplay stuff that I've read, it's fixing some issues like that, like from a mechanics perspective, that people have wanted in Pokemon-esque or monster capture games for a while, and it's also saying a bit of that quiet part a little louder than Pokemon does.
Look, my point is, I work in film sometimes when I'm not here, which is all the time. You can't make a film, you can't make a game by yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, you can. You're crazy, but you can. But often in a game like this, you have a team and you have ideas, and like, it's not just one person dictating their one idea. Well, I mean, again, it can, but like, you're crazy. This is a conscious choice by a group of people to make games with such strong parallels, they clearly must have had intention behind all of this.
Yeah.
Like we're past the point of accident.
Yes, we're
Yeah.
well past it.
Yeah,
And I
agree
can't
with
help
that.
but wonder what the intention was.
Right.
A fast money grab on the streets of downtown Canal Street, or like...
I think that's part of it. I think they correctly gleaned the notion that the Pokemon hasn't changed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at Pokemon real quick. They haven't fundamentally changed the battle system since they started introducing the brand new mega mechanic for each generation, right? But other than that, the battle system is largely 95% plus, the same as it was in the advanced games, right? We still have I would argue that the last big truly revolutionary introduction to the way that Pokemon plays is double battles. And that was a really long time ago, right?
Let's not discuss how long ago.
Yeah, I don't want to think about that. I will turn to dust and blow away on this stage, and the stage already has some cereal on it.
So much cereal.
It was a wild panel last night.
It was a wild panel here last night. So I think there is room to like poke at Pokemon.
I don't get it.
And to make the point that their weird niche subgenre is stagnant, right? And I do think that could be a point that you make, but like, it also feels like it got caught up in being edgy, or at least that people covering it think that they will get better coverage if they portray it as being super edgy.
Well, they will.
They
have.
They have. And I'm not saying I am not comfortable saying what the developer's intention or what was. I am comfortable saying the coverage, the people covering this, the media, and that know exactly what's going to. It's working. We're talking about it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and by the way, speaking of edgy, we missed a key facet of all of this, which is that everything in the game that is not you is a PAL, including the people in the game.
People are pals.
They're pals, but they can also go in the pal sphere.
Yeah. Anyway, we won't get too much into that because we have about eight-ish.
Yes.
We have about 8-ish minutes left. So I'm going to cut the last.
Even though we said we weren't going to talk much about pals,
we ended up doing it.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, media.
And again, I totally acknowledge that you can be a solo developer making awesome games. But this is not the team that did that. There was a team that made this game.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, what I was going to say is, with the last sort of 8 to 7 minutes, if anyone had any questions, we would happily do any Q&A if anyone has any further questions. And if you do ask something, you will maybe receive something, a prize of sorts from behind the
you
serial
really
cover
teased
stage.
that out really well.
And actually, you actually asked a question before. Would you like, we did this before at the 1 a.m. panel, would you like something sharp or soft? Sharp?
It's always sharp.
Everyone picks sharp first.
We just talked about a game about Pokemon with knives and guns, and Allie spent the entire time having Jigglypuff cook a Psyduck. I feel like Sharp is like on the menu at
It's
this point.
dangerous to go alone.
Take this pin.
But also, we're a small enough group. You don't have to get up in front of the mic. You can, if you have a question, just raise your hand. We'll call it out. Thank you.
They're in the front.
Is which working? It should be, yeah.
In theory, yeah.
There's
In
only one
theory,
way to
you will be
find
the
out.
test.
Do it.
Hello?
Yeah.
So my question, going back to the open worlds, and I guess all of you can answer this if possible. What is your least favorite and most favorite open world?
Oh. I think my favorite, and this is interesting because I think I really have to dissect why this is my favorite, and this will show my age as well, is actually Vice City. The old Vice City. And I think it's because, I don't think it's because they did a good job doing, marking a lot of the things. I think what it is the flavor of the areas all felt a little different and felt kind of, that made me want to explore. I think my least favorite,
I think we'll all have the same answer.
Why? What's yours?
No, I'm just
Oh,
saying.
I don't think we will. I think my least favorite might be probably the original Assassin's Creed. I didn't really run around that too much. Jordan?
I don't know. Does Minecraft count? I mean, it's not because it's more sandbox than open world.
It is open world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not really
that's the thing.
cities.
It's not cities.
Yeah, it's not pointing you. Well, yeah, it is.
But I don't have a cities answer. My answer would be like Breath of the Wild, which I know is kind of like an easy answer. But
But
when it
also,
comes
we
to
don't play
open
that
world,
many games, so that's the only answer.
Fair.
Yeah, I don't
Red?
play as much.
Sorry, we have a child.
Our time is
So
limited.
our time is limited. We do our best.
Yeah. Red?
Oh, that's me. My favorite, probably the one that allowed me the most exploration, and it felt organic but guided at the same time, was probably Witcher 3. And then my least favorite, and it's not to pick on anyone, is probably Assassin's Creed Valhalla. My problem with that one was that it's a task fest. It doesn't feel open anymore. It feels like I'm obligated to visit everything as opposed to wandering around discovering and icon clutter. And even when you remove that from the map, I still know it's there and I have to task everything. I don't feel like I can just go to a place. I have to go there. And that's not open anymore. That's a commitment. And that's my answer. Thank you, Senator.
I will probably have the weirdest answer, and I'm okay with that.
Okay.
My favorite is Breath of the Wild. My least favorite is Tears of the Kingdom.
I knew he was going to say. I knew you were going to say that.
Right. Okay. So Breath of the Wild is great because you can go anywhere and do anything. And Tears of the Kingdom is awful because you can go anywhere and pick up a quest. Stop it. I think the moment that really hit for me was in both games you need to awaken fairies. Right? You need to awaken the great fairies to upgrade your gear, to do better stuff, to be more powerful, to do the thing. And we've seen a bunch of really cool fairy cosplays this weekend. And the problem is that in Breath, that's a relatively straightforward process that's largely rooted in finding them, right? Because that's the cool part, finding the fountains. You're given one essentially for free, and then you find them, and you find all kinds of weird stuff around them, and that's cool, and it's about exploration. And in Tears, it's a quest, and there are a couple of them that are not one quest. It's 5 or 6 quests deep to do the same thing that you did by exploring. And so Tears feels like it's just on the wrong side of the thing that Breath was, that it changed focus away from exploring the open world into that task fest thing, and didn't realize that they'd crossed that line, right, in design phase. And I think that's why I love Breath of the Wild, and when I want to play an open-world Zelda game, I want to play Breath, not Tears, and I haven't even finished Tears.
No, it's an excellent point.
Yeah, I really like hearing you say that because I feel like that's what I couldn't tell exactly what made me fall off of Tears. I was playing it and I just kind of petered out, and I just couldn't really put my finger on what it was, and I feel like you nailed it. Yeah.
Thank you. Would you like something soft or sharp?
Let's do something sharp.
Sharp, come on out. One of these pins, and we got some.
Also, Twitch chat, I see your faces. You're also allowed to ask questions, but I can't throw prizes at you.
Sorry, Twitch chat. Hello.
Do you have any projects planned for Nebula or any other platforms that won't work on YouTube, and why won't they work on YouTube?
Well, that's a brilliant question.
Are you a journalist?
Have you considered journalism as a secondary profession? If not,
I mean, it doesn't pay, but
We currently have, I'm trying to think, we currently have, I will say, 1.5 pitches into Nebula right now.
Are we counting the one that I'm producing?
Yes.
Okay, that's one of them.
does that count as a half or one?
I'm not telling you. No.
It's actually 2 3
No, it's
quarters
funny
pitches.
because-
Joke's on you.
And why won't they work on YouTube? There's one that Jeff will kill me if I say too much stuff. So
He's
I'm trying
not here now.
I know he can't get me right now, but he can get me. He's fast.
Yeah.
You just listen for the
He'll bide his
puns.
time.
Okay, I'll say the reason why one wouldn't work on YouTube is not content so much as length based on what our channel is used to, and the other one is because it's swinging so high above our pay grade that I don't like. In order to pull it off, it needs to do like it needs to have a sort of different distribution system than YouTube gives. And I will say one of them is credits and one of them is history. Those are kind of the two. I'm sorry I can't like go too much into that, but the answer is yes.
It's a good tease.
Yeah, that's what I got. Would you like something soft or sharp?
Sharp.
Sharp. All right. Everyone loves the sharp things.
Well, I want the rainbow door that I did yesterday.
Oh yeah. There you go.
I was like, oh, my first thought was, oh, my project won't work on YouTube.
Hello.
Hello. Going back to the open world conversation, I'm curious about how many other people are going to relate to something that I thought of over the course of this talk, and that is that my sister and I have a particular way of playing games such that we have turned the word Skyrim into a verb, which means to take the least optimal route up a mountain. I'm very curious to see how many other people have done that.
Oh.
Or with a different game of the similar nature.
I feel like I would be safely saying that all of us probably have. I think one thing we all have in common is we're not supposed to go there. Like, just instantly go to that
Don't you tell
place.
me what to do.
You said it.
You know, I spent, and it was clocked by another individual, because she was very angry with me, approximately 14 hours trying to cross borders in World of Warcraft that were uncrossable. I was like, no, there's definitely a way up and over this mountain. I can we're gonna figure it out. So,
When the world says you can't go this way, but what if you can?
Yeah.
Well, like, so many games now have climbing or stamina or horses, right? Those three things, right? If you don't want players to fundamentally ignore roads, physics, gravity, boundaries, don't give us stamina-based, like flying mechanics, climbing, or horses. Because those three things always tend to lead to what I call Bethesda-ing, right? Which is, that geometry looks like I'm not supposed to climb it. I'll just ride a horse.
Yeah.
Right? Like that kind of thing, right? And I feel like if they didn't want us to, don't give us those tools. It's very simple. We're going to do it.
Thank you. Let's get real quick, because I think we're going to get. I think we're a little over time. We'll slam these questions in.
We're on the schedule till 11.
Are we on the schedule till 11?
Yeah, we're on the guide.
For real?
I was
keep them coming. Let's go. I didn't even know. I was like, oh, it's an hour, right?
No, I was confused when you were like, we have 8 minutes left, and I was like, it's 10. Like,
it's Sunday at MAGFest.
Right?
Hello again.
It's also the middle of the night.
That's right.
So back on the subject of Pal World, do you think that it might just be sort of like this decade's Yokai Watch? Because when I think back like 10 years ago, Yokai Watch got a lot of publicity because it had outsold that generation's Pokemon.
That's
I think
right.
it was Oros. And there was like a similar conversation of, oh, Pokemon's gotten stale, doesn't really look that great anymore. Yokai has like X, Y, and Z about it, and that's why it's like the new thing. And then Nintendo was like, oh, here's Pokemon Go.
Right. No, I had forgotten about
That's
that.
a really good point. So saying Pokemon has gotten stale is a perennial topic for any Pokemon fan. Like
you see someone else wearing like gym badges, and like you walk up to them in the middle of the con. Pokemon's gotten stale. Pokemon's gotten stale. Shake hands and walk away. Right? Yeah, it's like high five, walk off. Right?
Yeah. I might go play like my first card game, Pokemon card game, in like a little while, and probably like 20 minutes after that, I'll start talking about how it's gotten stale. But no, that's a really good. And the question is it going to be? It has potential. It has potential to be, for sure. And that's going to be driven mostly by community interaction. So far we've just seen the coverage from early review and editorial, but I think what will be more important over the next 2 weeks is how that play count maintains itself. And then you have the staying power of a possible competitive franchise. all legal business to the side? It's a great question, and I guess time will tell, because we're discussing this like it's Pokemon. I haven't played it. It might not have enough aspects to really appeal to people that in a way that Pokemon does originally, or some successful, I don't. Full confession, I don't do. I wasn't a Pokemon fan. I did really like Digimon.
That's because you like isekais.
Yeah,
Fair.
that's accurate. That is accurate.
Yeah.
but
Because Digimon has a stronger narrative, and
That's it.
and uses the digital monsters to facilitate a known arc, right? The problem is that Ash has been 12 for 20 years, right? There's no advancement in the plot, and that's part of the problem with it, right?
That's true.
But Digimon has to advance the plot, because the whole point of the isekai is either we're going to get home or we're going to save the digital world, or both, right? But it has a concrete ending instead of something nebulous like, I don't know, I want to be the very best in a way that no one ever has before, but that's what
Well, because it takes so long, apparently.
Right, obviously. I mean, how long does it take to level a Pikachu to level 100? 20 years,
so
obviously.
let's promise each other to come back next year and figure out.
I'll probably be here.
Would you like something sharp or soft?
Soft this time.
All right.
I mean, I don't know. I just don't think the guns in Yokai Watch were as good. That's my first thought.
I really love the Grookey with the AK-47.
Regarding like the Pokemon, like nowadays they're releasing like DLCs for them. But I remember my first game was Pokemon Crystal, where they actually completed the game and found they had space on the cartridge left, so they added extra stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I do remember hearing that.
And I think that exactly what you're saying goes a lot to the perception of Pokemon as a value proposition, right? Because Crystal was a standard Game Boy games cost, right? Wherever you were. I don't believe Crystal cost extra. And now we're being asked to pay, $60 for the game, plus another 60 for, or however much it is. I think it's 30 to 60 depending on your locality for the DLC.
Stop.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Really?
It's a lot.
Capitalism, what is wrong with you?
Oh, Jeff and I did an entire design club
Really?
on how expensive and time-consuming it is to play competitive Pokemon, and the answer is it's hundreds of dollars and thousands of hours.
That's really discouraging.
to play competitive Pokemon.
Yeah.
It's really discouraging.
But yeah.
Nice. Thank you. The sharp or soft?
I was at the 1 a.m. panel. I already got one.
All right.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi. Kind of looping back to open world design, specifically urban open world design. In the video at the beginning, you mentioned one of the ways to kind of deal with landmark issues in cities is encourage your player, give them like a flying mechanic or let them go up high.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, a lot of the interest of having an urban open world is all of the little nooks and crannies you can find down aisleways. So if you want, first I wanted to know your opinion of giving someone that aerial option, kind of your opinion on that possibly discouraging them from actually spending a lot of time in those urban nooks, in those small, like actually on the streets.
Yeah.
And then if you still wanted to use that, how could you encourage almost a dualistic exploration style gameplay where they're interested in going up high, but also giving them encouragement of, hey, you can find things down below too. Go explore the alleys now and then.
Yeah. No. So I don't mind the going up high element of looking at it, because you basically, like, Spider-Man for the PS5 is a perfect example of this. There's not, other than I live in New York, so I go and try to find all the how they've condensed the city into the things. But
Is your bodega in Spider-Man?
Yeah. But I think it's pretty clear that the developer overall wants, or they want you to be up high. Like the selling point of a Spider-Man game is the action of web swinging and moving through the city. It's not like the specific thing on 76th Street oftentimes. So I don't mind it, especially when it's designed for that. Like I think I speak for a lot of people when I say, like, in those games we don't run around on the ground a bunch and not jump and swing. And then as far as, like, even going back to the video, as far as keeping interest on the ground, I think, again, Yakuza does a really good job of that this is also opinion, so I don't want to make it like it's a definitive thing. But Yakuza does things that make me want to go, and like I'll see something down the way, and there's a promise that there's probably something there, like David drew the giant crab on the sign or something. And as opposed to Cyberpunk, where there are interesting things, like there are signs and buildings and just like billboards or something that looks interesting, but unless I got trained that unless there is at some point a quest marker or a Night City PD mark or like something, if I go over there, I'm not going to be rewarded for just going over there, so I don't. And then I guess the solution would kind of be, in my opinion, sort of I think what you alluded to earlier was the training me, where if I do go and do that in your open world city, even if it's not going to, like, you have to have that visual treat, right, that drags you over there, but also, like, find that magical number of when there is something versus there isn't. Even going back to the waterfalls, if there's a thing behind every waterfall, it's not special that there's a thing behind a waterfall. And that number is going to change for everybody. That's really hard. But I think it's training that you will be rewarded by exploring like those small nooks and crannies, I think.
And there's another part to it too, I think, which is if they take away your ability to skip stuff for a while. Not quite an open world, but we've made it like, almost an hour and a half in the panel. I haven't mentioned Final Fantasy once, so I get to bring it up now.
Wow, that's a record.
Right? Amazing. In 14, you can fly in most zones after you've done the main story. And you have to have explored the zone once in order to get that fast traversal, because there are quests and hidden points that you have to find and claim to do it. So that's another way that I think a lot of times we get encouraged to find little things is, yes, give us the big overhead view after, or in certain circumstances, or take it away for certain things, or make it special and make exploring on the ground equally novel, special, unique part of a different part of the game, right? Because those are functionally two different modes of playing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I actually really like that, because then if you're on the ground first and then at the end of it you're rewarded by going up, you can kind of recognize things that you had first seen on the ground.
Yeah.
That would be a really cool way to do it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Sharp or soft? Soft.
Okay. Well, since it was mentioned, I will continuously talk about Hellblade longer than it took to play Hellblade. But I guess I want to mention spoilers. The game lies, and as someone, I think this goes back to why have a sequel.
Yeah.
Because I've watched all the dev diaries and stuff, not just the trailers, but all the things, and they've even done a couple podcasts with some of the devs that are working on it and what they're doing. I've noticed they're definitely trying to not talk about story at all, but since the original game does that, and you almost kind of expect it or some kind of twist, it's like, how can you have a sequel to that and kind of have that same experience that I finished the first time that makes it 11 out of 10?
It's the M. Night Shyamalan
Yeah,
problem.
exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I guess, I don't know. The game's been out for how long now? I think we're past...
Spoilers for Hellblade.
Spoilers for Hellblade. Yeah. The mechanic we're talking about, right, is that the game tells you that if you fail enough, you will die, and it will delete your save file. So it tells you that there are consequences for Senua, and that there are consequences for you as a player, and that's just to build tension. And once you know that, the perception of a sequel is different, right, essentially?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't...
Well, it's the same magic trick twice.
Right.
Or not the same magic trick, but you see a magic trick.
But I still kind of feel like they're trying to pull a magic trick. They're first like, okay, it's not the same magic trick, but you know there's a magic trick.
Right,
Just
you're
knowing
looking
it's a trick.
for the thing when you play it.
We're in the pledge.
But there are interesting ways when you're telling a story of anticipating that your audience is a step ahead of you. Indeed. And there are narrative tricks that can be employed by people more clever than M. Night Shyamalan. If these people existed.
Of course.
Okay, all right.
But you're right. It's an interesting tension. And well, on top of that, this becomes really metatextual, right? Because you're now bringing in this outside information. And you can play with that in a way that can be very satisfying, especially now if, like doing fake outs is cheap. Get that out of the way very quickly, maybe ease you in comfortably to you knowing what it's going to be, and then pull the rug. A rug pull feels cheap. Pull the rug, get you angry for feeling cheap, and now they set up the real thing where it turns out it was a dream all along and you were in a coma in a hospital and Hill Street Blues is connected somehow. And
You good?
St. Elmo's Fire? Nothing?
No.
Nothing?
No, but like you were
Nothing?
You were getting like the misty, far away, like old man shakes his cane at clouds thing for a second.
I was. No, it's an interesting challenge. I can't wait to see how they solve. Actually, I'm really excited to see how they're going to do this.
At least in the discussion of every single thing they talked about besides trailers, it's all about, it's so real. We went to Iceland and got all the photography and got down to, we got these rocks, right, on the beach, and we got down with photos and made sure that when you walk it, it's like you're walking there. For real.
I mean, it's on them now because I walked there. I'm ready. I've got my own photos.
Well, there's two sort of takes there, right? Like, one, do they know they can't do the magic trick again, so they're trying to lean on the other things that might help sell the game or make it feel special? Or two, are they trying to do a magic trick again and they're trying to distract away from their doing a or the same magic trick again?
At the same time, we should acknowledge that lie is only really a part of the narrative experience too. Like, I think if the lie wasn't in the story would still be as equally compelling because it's a character piece.
I will talk you off about what's really compelling about the story.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's interesting. We set up a metatextual tension
I keep thinking about Doki Literature Club,
Yes.
right? Because that's got a lot of like metatextual stuff going on as well, without running too deep into it, where you have to manipulate the save file. And so I think we're also getting to a place where most people are savvy enough about the games that they're playing that psychological tension has to work simultaneously on the character and the player.
Yeah, and I think
how cool is that? How freaking cool is that we as a gaming community are like literate enough that games have to be smarter to be better, that we have grown up in this art form, that we are pushing and forcing the development of better games because we're smart enough to see all the cheap tricks, and that as artists they have to push themselves. As developers, we have to strain our brain muscles to make better games. I think that's awesome.
I also think that we've had these little tricks around games for a little bit, right? My first one I think that I remember is Psycho Mantis in Metal Gear. Where if you had different save files on the cards, he would read your mind and be like, "You like stealth games," and you'd be like whatever, and you had to put the controller down and do a trick to beat him. Or even everything that just always comes back to me is Undertale, right? Like Undertale, I don't know if anyone experienced that, but there's a I don't want to spoil it if you haven't, but there's a thing that if you try to save scum, something interesting happens, and you're like, oh, it's paying attention to everything. And so it's funny, that I almost feel like is the opposite of what Senua did, because Senua kind of actively lied, which is fine, and it got you into a tension point, where other games have done that and proved they're oh no, we're gonna do it. So thank you. Oh, sharp or soft?
Sharp.
There we go. Hello.
Yes,
Show what?
He knows what he's about.
Hashtag not sponsored by Martin. Hi.
Hello. As Pokemon fans, what would you guys like to see have them kind of, spice up the formula?
Oh, I have so many answers for this, so someone else should go first before I get all spicy.
It's funny. I want more, and this is a little not counterintuitive. I want more.
Less. You want more less.
More less. I want more stories with my team of Pokemon. if that makes sense. Like, if I'm traveling with these creatures, I want it to feel more like I'm traveling with like a really loved pet as opposed to, and like that is like, I just really like to see smaller experiences in those things that aren't revolved around battling. Again, that's a me thing. I don't think the general community, that might not be something, but I've always wanted that, and it hasn't really ever gotten me there.
Oh, here's what I want. I think Arceus was great because you could chuck Pokeballs. I want that mechanic in the main games. I liked in Let's Go that you had like your Pokemon follow you. I want that to just be a normal thing, not just sending out your Pokemon like you can in Scarlet Violet, and then it does follow you, but kind of. Yeah, like more interactions just to make it more like I'm with my Pokemon, because that's what I like about it, is like you get these relationships with your Pokemon. Like I want more of that, and I think they have done that a little bit in the past with like Let's Go and some of the older games where like, or even Yellow where Pikachu just followed you around. Like I want more of that kind of stuff, like a more personal kind of touch, because I'm not like super competitive or anything. Like I just like boss level up my Pokemon just so they can just, I don't care which one it is, it can take out anything.
I don't know. You did go hard at the card tournament last night.
Well, that's different. The card tournament
I was saying
is
you do.
different, okay? It's different. I do feel an emotional connection to my card decks, but when it comes to like the video game, yeah, I want more of that personal touch, and I feel like they've touched on that in a few different games, and I just want that to be in one place now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Red.
You know, again, I don't really participate in the Pokemon games because I don't find them as engaging for me, and I would like them to be more engaging, but I don't think I'm the audience. So I would like them to do whatever they do best, which seems like companionship.
I'm going to give the...
get hot.
Yeah, I'm going to give the crunchy answer. I would like them to tear down more of the barrier that exists between single player and multiplayer. I would like them to do more that respects the player's time. I would like them to collapse the franchise onto one platform where you can actually make use of the promise that's sort of implicit in having home exist, where you can just have all the Pokemon. I would really like them to do more tutorialization of the behind-the-scenes stuff that a lot of people know because they've looked it up, but the game doesn't actually ever teach you. And I would really desperately, before they do any of that, I would like them to make a team creator thing for competitive play so that it stops being about who has more time to grind and starts being about who can create the best team regardless of which versions you own or don't, or whether you were at the limited event for Jirachi or not, or whatever. I would really like them to stop demanding players spend hundreds of thousands of hours to play competitive. Because I would love to play competitive Pokemon, but I don't have time, right? And that barrier to entry is a thing I think that is really doing them a disservice, because competitive Pokemon is really high level and really good. It's just the barrier to entry is way too high, and I want more people to be able to try it without, 8 versions of the game in 3,000 hours.
Yeah, they have certainly added a couple more things into Scarlet and Violet that certainly eases that transition, such as nature modifiers,
sure.
the bottle caps and such like that. But I agree, there does need to be just a little bit more for it to catch up.
They added nature modifiers and bottle caps, and then they added Terra Shards. And you're like, okay, now there's another thing to grind for too. So it's all in balance. But yeah,
that didn't seem unreasonable at all. That seemed like a very
that's hugely unreasonable. No, that's hugely unreasonable.
No, I was very comfortable with it.
I literally don't touch any of that stuff when I play.
Well, and I think that the things that I'm mentioning are fundamentally against demonstrated Pokemon Company ethos. Those are things that they will not do, but I think that they really need to do. Or the next time someone has an idea like Temtem, they will actually manage to make a dent in the market share. Because Temtem has a lot of really good ideas, they just don't have the reach.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and I just bringing it back, like hopefully, no matter how any of us feel about things like Pal World or even Temtem or anything that's sort of come before, like it's good that something that people are thinking of is similar to Pokemon is getting a bunch of eyeballs on it, because hopefully that competition breeds innovation, and maybe they might try to go away from some of those ethoses that bother Will. I mean, maybe if we're looking at precedent, they're not going to, but like, but I don't know how else you even try to push them to that, because.
Well, didn't they just do a thing at a tournament recently where like they banned Pokemon? You probably know more about this, Will. Yeah.
So they banned, they DQ'd a bunch of people at Worlds. Some of those people knew that they had hacked in Pokemon. To be clear, these Pokemon were not a competitive advantage. They were identical to Pokemon that you would catch in the wild. They were legal combinations of stats and moves and levels and items and everything. They just weren't generated randomly. They were generated intentionally. And so they DQ'd a bunch of people for that. And then they DQ'd a bunch of people who had been bringing forward Pokemon from older games that they didn't know had been altered from like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And those people still got DQ'd. So, yeah, they're very against taking shortcuts in the very long process of prepping a competitive team. But that's literally a whole panel worth of discussion. By the way. Like,
we got 5 minutes.
Well, I feel like it's just going to take the outcry from the community, right? Like but do they care?
They don't
Again, let's circle all the way back. Pokemon is the most valuable IP in the world, period. Not the most valuable game IP, not the most valuable anime IP, the most valuable intellectual property in the world, period. They don't care, right? Because their brand is worth more than we could possibly fathom.
Like how many Taylor Swifts?
At least a dozen, maybe a baker's dozen. And so it's very hard to move that needle, right? It's very hard to move that needle in a substantial way, because if we're relying on it driving or changing their bottom line is already way higher than we're going to be able to manage unless we get all the Pokemon fans in the world together and go on an epic quest and make it into a movie and have a little theme song.
I would watch that movie.
I know you would.
Yeah. It doesn't even have to have like real Pokemon. It's just a journey.
It was called Pokemon 2000.
Soft or sharp?
Thank you, and soft, please.
Soft? There we go. You knew it was coming. There you go. Whoop. Oops, sorry. There we go.
All right, we got 4 minutes.
We got 3 minutes on mine.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Look, you're running fast. You're always running
Come
fast.
on up. 3 whole minutes.
Lightning round.
My only question is, when it comes to Pokemon and where we are today in Gen 9, it's sort of a two-part. How do you feel about what Generation 5 did for Black and White, the original, where they took out all of the national decks and put it behind post-story, so it forced you to actually work with that generation's decks, as opposed to what they're doing now for DLCs?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so context. This is weird. They really want people to use the new Pokemon, right? Because there's a bunch of reasons for that. One of them is they want to sell merch of all the new starters, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not immune to that. Fuecoco is my son. He has not had one thought ever in his entire life, and his best friend is Totodile, and they bite things together, okay? Like, these are just true things, right? Okay. And the other one is if they don't force people to break patterns, you wind up in the same problem that Magic has with Commander, where some people just play the same thing forever, and that ends up causing resentment for that ends up causing a weird kind of resentment for the player, as well as creates stagnation in the competitive scene and in like your perception of the game. So I think that it's kind of equivalent. The problem is that it can't ever be equivalent because they're asking us to fork over more money, right? And so I totally am sympathetic to the idea that they want to delay releasing those additional Pokemon or like the new Past Paradox versions of the dogs or whatever. But the conversation becomes fundamentally different when you start asking fans to fork out more money for a thing that in past generations, like Black and White, feels like it would have just been part of the post game. Does that make sense?
And also, it's funny, I'm a little less nuanced because Will definitely knows far more about Pokemon overall over all the generations than I do. But there is sort of like, from a marketing perspective, one way to do it, and this is hard when you have, how many Pokemon are there now? Like...
Four
whole Pokemon.
Whoa, Red. At least 5.
Right, 5.
I'm
Four
sorry,
and a
I
half.
I misspoke. I forgot about that.
And this is a really difficult thing to do, so I'm not trying to say this to make it sound easy. But if you have a new additional thing to go with your IP, what I would like to see is rather than lock something behind the new stuff before you get to go to the old stuff, is make the new stuff interesting enough where I want to go and engage with the new stuff. Not just that I love the brand and the IP and I want to engage in whatever they're doing next and I'm a little bit underwhelmed by it, but okay. And, if I just do it enough, then I get to go back to my old cool things. Like, I would love to see some of that, and it kind of goes back into how does that even happen? I mean, Will, you made the point. They don't need to, so why?
Right.
But like, that's, I don't know. I just want something that would engage the community more, that would get them psyched, as opposed to like having to do the work to get to the thing they want that's more original. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're out of soft. We just have sharp.
That's fine.
All right.
Did we oversupply sharp?
We did oversupply sharp.
And that is our time.
That's our time, everybody. Hey, seriously, thank you so much for coming this freaking early on Sunday at MAGFest.
Yeah.
I know what the weekend is like, and I know what last night was like, and it means the absolute world that any of you came today. Thank you so much for coming, and enjoy the rest of the last day of MAG 2024. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
Oh, well, we were just mixing it with coffee.